welcome to Habits for Humans, the podcast that explores what makes people tick and how to program this brain of ours. And it is programmable to do what we want it to do. We're going to explore why we can sometimes, and in some areas of our life, achieve extraordinary accomplishments. And at other times, we're addicted to Cheetos and watching Real Housewives. If we want to be healthy and happy, what is the secret to programming our brain to maximize our potential? I'm your host, Kim Flynn, and today we're going to discuss and talk about how to program yourself using what I call SNL habits. No, it's not Saturday Night Live. It's obviously an acronym. And once you learn it, I hope you'll never forget it. But these SNL habits are going to be the secret for you in what it takes to program your brain so that you don't have to use force, you don't have to use discipline, you don't have to will yourself to eat right or exercise or take care of your mental wellness or keep your house clean. All of those things in our lives, all those habits that we want to do, we want to program our brains to do that for us so that you reflexively, automatically do those things. Don't get me started. I'm going to go all into this right now, but I want to also share with you a catastrophic failure that I've had in my life and how I learned from this catastrophic failure, how to get back on the horse and do it differently on round 2 of my life, and actually care about my health and wellness. So we're going to talk about that as well. We do have a giveaway for our listeners at the end. And so if you like free stuff, stay tuned to the end of this podcast and you can get some free stuff. And first of all, a word from our sponsor. Habits for Humans is brought to you by Card Salad, a company that I might know a thing or 12 about. It's a health and wellness company that teaches you how to program your brain using systems and habits. Their flagship product is Eat Well, a meal planning system that trains you in eating habits to last a lifetime. And after going through this program, you will never need to diet again. Visit cardsalad.com. Let's jump into things then. Let's jump right in. I'm excited to introduce our guest today. And it's actually me. I am the guest today. So this podcast has all guests, and these first 2 or 3 podcasts is just me because I wanted to share with you the foundation of what I believe about habits and what I've learned about habits, and want to kind of share that excuse me, that kind of the bedrock foundation with you before we get into interviewing all of these guests. So let me introduce myself as if I were a guest, as awkward as that is. Let me just introduce myself with my standard typical bio, a little bit unconventional and maybe a little bit embarrassing, but here we go. Kim Flynn, that's me, is a best-selling author, podcaster, and serial entrepreneur with several 7- and 8-figure businesses under her belt. Not all of them have been successful, however, and I'm sure I'll get into that. She's currently the CEO of Card Salad, a health and wellness company that provides organizational products to live a healthy, sustainable, deeply satisfying way of life. I've been featured on. Kim has been featured on national television and radio shows. She's a recipient of 2 Stevie Awards, Woman Entrepreneur of the Year, and Workplace of the Year. Her company made the Fortune 5000 list in 2018 and the top 50 list of the fastest growing companies in her home state of Utah in 2019. Kim is an expert in systems and process building and loves to interview guests about maximizing human potential on the podcast Habits for Humans. So that's my traditional bio. Let me tell you really about me. I am like crazy. I don't know what happened to me or my brain, but I love organization and systems. My brain just thinks in those terms. And so my real bio is, built a bunch of companies. I love business. It's come kind of naturally to me. And I've always been like, go, 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 drive, drive, drive. And my largest company was named eSimplified. We had to close our doors in 2020. It was an event-based company. And we were running, 3 events a week. Every single week, we had 3 locations across the country. We had event centers in Houston and Phoenix and Salt Lake City. And all revenue came to a screeching halt. And when you have a $10 million company with no revenue for 5 months, things tend to not go well. And so we had to close our doors. And I talk about it as if it's like, oh yeah, we had to close our doors. No, it was like devastating, the hardest thing I've ever been through in my life. It was grief. It was 6 weeks. I couldn't get off the couch. Like when we closed our doors, it was such a big deal. It felt like a death. I have experienced deaths before, and this felt akin to a death. Like it was a blow, right? And in those 6 weeks when I was just sitting on the couch, so depressed, and first of all, I'm usually not a depressed person. Anxiety and I, really good friends. Depression and I, brand new acquaintances. So I met depression and we made good friends in 2020. Didn't necessarily like her, but we made friendships with each other. And this is what it was like. So I'm going to sound like the world's snottiest person in just a second. I was sitting there on the couch. We couldn't afford the nanny, couldn't afford the housekeeper anymore. Like, right, like my financial life was destroyed in a day. And I started looking around my house, depressed on the couch. We didn't cook. I've got 4 kids. My dear husband, like we were used to having a certain lifestyle and having people take care of our lives for us, right? And I realized how disconnected I was from my kids, from my husband, from my body, from my food, from my environment. I literally had not done dishes, and I'm not exaggerating, in about 5 years. I had not done dishes in 5 years. And you think, oh, wouldn't that be ideal? No, it's not ideal. You're so disconnected from your life, right? And so I was sitting on the couch in my depressed funk after like the catastrophic fail of my life, and looking around my house and realized, oh my goodness, I don't cook. I've never cooked in my life. Like, how do I even take care of myself? How do I cook? And then I was like, oh, the house is an absolute mess. We need some kind of system in place here. And what's the ultimate irony is my previous company was a business systems training company. Our company taught business owners how to develop systems and operations to run their company. And so I took those same business systems that we used to train business owners and applied them to our household. And so I started to cook. And I was like, okay, first of all, I hate cooking. I don't know how to cook. I don't know what to cook. How do I even create a system? So what I did is I ended up building an acrylic board with cards, and I actually have it for you right here to show you. So this is our what's called our Eat Well system. It's turned into a business, but this is what I created. So here are the recipe cards, and you put them on your refrigerator on this meal planning board. And then you have like shopping lists done for you. And then you have all these habits of how to instill these habits into your life, everything on a system. So there's 2 pieces that you need. You need a system, and then you need habits to support the system. And you really do have to have both of those. So the system is how do I do it? And the habit is the programming to do it. And again, you need both of them. If someone gives you like a workout system and says, here's the system, now go do it, there's a very small chance of you actually doing it long term because a habit hasn't been built around it, right? And the same thing with habits without systems. If you're like, okay, I have a habit of eating right, but there's no system behind it, eating right might look pretty loosey-goosey, if that makes sense. So a system and a habit are kind of the 2 ingredients that you need. And so I looked around my house and I was like, oh man, I need to create a system for myself. And then I need to slowly insert habits to support the system. And we'll talk about that in just a little bit. So I created the Eat Well system, which I didn't have a name for it then. I was like, this is our menu board, kiddos, And then I had a house cleaning system. We still use my beta version of our house cleaning system. I'll bring it downstairs and show you guys one of these days. And it's just a bunch of cards. Everything is tactile with this new system, right? And so I created this product and rolled it out into my life. And I realized, oh my goodness, Eureka, there is nothing like this on the marketplace. Oh my goodness, what if this is my next business? And so Card Salad was born. And so I have read every book on the topic of habits, and I've also trained in systems for the past 20 years in my career. I love habits and systems. I know it's not everyone's like cup of tea, but for me, that's what lights me up. I know it's strange. So I want to get into what I call SNL habits, and I want to train you in what it takes from trying to instill a habit that doesn't stick and what it takes to instill a habit that does stick. And it has to do with the SNL habits. So here's the little acronym here, the 3 golden rules of habits. They're S, it must go slow. And everything in our culture and everything in my brain says, no, we can't go slow. Slow isn't effective. Slow isn't efficient. Like if you can go slow, you might as well go fast, right? And and I know it's so counterintuitive, but our brains are hardwired to build habits slowly. So the first one is slow. We'll go into that more in depth in just a minute. The second one is the N for SNL, and that is it can have no force, no force, no force, no discipline, no willpower, none of that like, oh, I have to. Like if it has that energy, no, it will not pass the SNL test. It has to have, first of all, slow and no force required, no force. If you are a high achiever, a type A personality, a go-get-'em tiger kind of person, this is going to fly in the face of everything you think you know about why you're successful. You're going to think, oh no, like the reason I'm successful is I have this incredible willpower. I force myself to do things. And that is sustainable for a small amount of time. It is not sustainable over the course of your lifetime. You're a human being, and that is simply not sustainable. And if you had told me that in 2019, or even early 2020 before COVID fully hit in March in my area, I would have said, we can just keep pushing. We can keep pushing. We can keep growing. Everything in my career was push, push, grow, grow, force, force, discipline, discipline. And not exaggerating, my business partner has PTSD from the pace that I was trying to push the team to move on. If you haven't hit the wall, maybe you have a few more years ahead of you, but you will hit the wall if force, discipline, and just like gut-wrenching willpower is what you're using to be successful, whether it's to run your household, whether it's to run your career, whether it's to run your how you treat your body. If you're using that force, discipline, must move at an excruciating pace, it is not sustainable for life. And so that is number 3 in the SNL. The L is it must be sustainable for a lifetime. So again, from the top, SNL habits must be built slowly. There's no, the slow cut is the shortcut. You really want to move slowly, and we'll talk more about that. The second one, again, is no force. No force, no discipline, no willpower needed. And the third one is it must be sustainable for a lifetime. There's your L for your lifetime. So let me give you some examples of this. Probably about maybe 15 years ago, I decided I wanted to get into really good shape. So I'm 45 now, so I was probably 30. It was probably less than that. I was probably in my early 30s. I decided I was going to get in really, really good shape. And so there was a program back in the day, and this is going to date me as well. It's called Body for Life. The book's still available. And it's essentially a weight training program with a high intensity interval training program with a meal planning program. And essentially this is what it was. It was every day for 6 days, you'll work out. You'll rotate between weights and running. When you run, it'll only be for 20 minutes, but you will run your guts out. You will try to reach a level 10 in like how far you can go every single time you run. And you'll hit that level 10 through high intensity interval training 4 times. So you are like running your guts out. The same thing when you lift weights. You are lifting to your maximum every single time you lift weights. And then the meal planning prep or the program was you eat a carb and a protein every 4 hours. No sauces, no like good stuff. I remember what I used to eat. I would eat a piece of wheat bread, which I hated wheat bread at the time, a piece of wheat bread. And then this is so embarrassing to admit, I would go to the freezer and I would get like lean ground beef. I would microwave it because that's delicious, right? Microwave a hamburger patty and put it on the wheat bread. And that was my like go-to meal. And think about this, is that sustainable for a lifetime? This was 6 days out of the 7. And I remember thinking, oh, good, I get to eat real food 1 day per week. 1 day per week. The rest of the time it was like chalky, powdery protein shakes and aforementioned delicious microwaved lean beef with nothing in it, no salt. And every once in a while, you guys, I cheated and put some ketchup on it. I know, I'm such a bad human being, right? And this is what I did. And of course, it's called Body for Life. No, it's Body for 12 weeks. That's the most amount of time you can sustain that amount of human torture. So what happens when we just force ourselves to change? So Body for Life is not slow. You immediately jump into 6 days a week. Boom, you're going to exercise every single day, and you're going to eat this crazy intense meal plan right from the get-go. So it's not slow. The next thing is no force. Come on. uh, Running your guts out to a level 10. That is the definition of force. That is the definition of needing discipline and willpower, right? And then the third one is that sustainable for a lifetime? Do I really want to be eating a piece of dry wheat bread with a, a microwaved piece of lean ground beef on it? Does that sound like that is what we are meant to do as humans? Like, does that sound enjoyable and sustainable and like treating yourself like you are a wonderful human being? No, that sounds like torture. It fails all three of the tests. It is not slow. It's not sustainable for a lifetime, and it requires force and discipline. So of course, what happened when I went on that diet is, you guys, I looked incredible. Oh my goodness. I looked so good. I looked good, but I felt like shit. Can I say that? I did not feel like I was taking good care of my body. I felt like I was forcing and disciplining, and nothing changed internally for me. The reason we go on these drastic diets and these drastic regimens is because we're trying to heal something right here, right? I was trying to heal this, and I was trying to force and discipline myself into healing this. And I remember feeling so let down. After I finished this 12-week program, I think I lost like 20 pounds, and I actually had muscles in my body, which I'd never had before. And I was like, wow, I look good and I don't feel good. I don't feel good at all. And I was so disappointed because I thought, oh, I'm still just me. I still have all my self-doubt and all my insecurity and all of my I don't know. I was thinking that this would magically change me. I was thinking that feeling good or looking in the mirror and seeing that I looked good would change how I felt about me in my life. And it was such a letdown that didn't do anything. That I still had the same feelings of negative and self-doubt and like that I had before. And so I ended that diet program, as most diet programs end, with saying, yeah, I can't do this for the rest of my life. And nor do I want to do this for the rest of my life. And then I bounced between all these different diets and all these different, and if you're a woman or a man in the US and you aren't naturally a size 0, which some people are, and bless you if you are, but if you're not a natural size 0, like I was not and have never been, I went on a series of diet after diet after diet after diet, and finally found intuitive eating, the book Intuitive Eating, and did that for a while, fell off that horse, went on 17 other diets, and then finally just realized enough is enough. Like, the diets themselves are failing me. And let's talk about diets for just a second. The reason diets fail you is because when you apply anti-SNL habits into your life, so things that are fast, that say change immediately, that say you have to use force and discipline, and that are not sustainable for a lifetime. Whether it's a diet you're trying to apply, an exercise program, I'm going to keep my house clean, I'm going to do all my homework, I'm going to get through school, I'm going to apply myself in my business, whatever habits we're trying to instill, when we don't follow the SNL principles, what happens is our body and our brain actually rebel against us. It's kind of like a really mean parent saying, you can't go out past 6 p.m. on a school night, and you can only watch TV once a week for an hour. And it's just so regimented that you will rebel against that parent. There's no way around it. You either break your spirit or you rebel, because that is not what we're programmed as humans to be or do. And so when we do that to ourselves, when we are that very mean drill sergeant, strict parent, no sugar, no carbs, no fat, exercise every day, run your guts out. When we are that drill sergeant to ourselves, we will also rebel against ourselves. And so rebellion is part of the game, unless you move slowly with no force, and do things that are sustainable for a lifetime. So let's talk about what this would look like if we didn't do Body for Life, or what's the latest craze, the hard 150 or the hard 75 or whatever it is. There's always different versions of these coming out, and they're always like, run your guts out and you can like magically transform your life in 6 weeks. And guess what? You actually can, but it's not sustainable. And you'll feel even worse about yourself after you fall off the horse. So instead of that plan, what if we applied the SNL habits instead? So the first SNL habit is slow. What if you wanted to start a workout regimen and you said, okay, I am going to get on the treadmill every day and I'm going to walk for 30 seconds. Only 30 seconds. How's that for slow? If that's too much, what if we said, on Mondays, I am going to walk on the treadmill for 30 seconds. I'm telling you guys, it sounds ludicrous. It sounds like, yeah, but you'll never get to your goals, right? This actually is like the secret to getting to your goals. So it's the secret to getting to your goals because, and I want you to understand this really clearly, it isn't about the goals. Repeat that 20 times to yourself. It isn't about the goals. It is the habits. It's the habits. It's about the habits. So you don't ask yourself, how much do I want to weigh? That's a goal. Or what size shoe do I want to wear? As if you can change that. What size pants do I want to wear? Or how much do I want to be able to lift? Or how clean do I want the house? Those are all goals. Those are all end destinations. Unless you're planning on dying at the end of those 6 weeks or the end of that 12-week period, and actually will say, okay, I'm going to get to that goal and then I will die, then you have my permission to set goals. But we do not that's not how we live our lives. We live our lives just repetition and pattern. And we have, 30, 40, 50, 60, 80 more years on this planet. There's no goals. So as quickly as possible, I want you to get rid of body goals, house goals, I don't know, any kind of goals, just goals in general. And we'll talk about business as we go on too. Even in business, it's very helpful to get rid of goals and focus on habits. So what would habits look like? So there's a story, and I can't remember I should have looked up the guy's name before I said this, but there's a story of an Olympic coach, and he was a biathlon coach. And so biathlon is where they ski down the mountain and then they stop and they get their guns from their back and then they shoot a target and then they ski. I don't know why this is still a sport in this day and age, but it still is an Olympic sport. It's the biathlon. And the US coach a couple years ago was noticing that his athletes could not keep up. And what's interesting is frequently in the US based programs, we tend to focus on goals. Get the basket, get the home run, get the goal. And he realized, different cultures and different countries are able to do better than we are able to do because they don't focus on goals. They focus on the process. Another word for process is habits. They focus on the habits. And so instead of like, okay, hit the target, hit the target, hit the target, and go fast, those are all goals, right? He was like, okay, athletes, ignore hitting the target, ignore going fast. This is what you're going to do. I want you to focus on just planting your feet. As soon as you come to a stop, I want you to plant your feet. And we're going to practice planting your feet, planting your feet, planting your feet. We're going to practice a habit. We're not going to focus on shooting and hitting the target. We're just going to focus on planting your feet. Once you've mastered that, then we're going to move on to holding the barrel of the gun against your shoulder. And I don't know anything about shooting, clearly, if this is my like version of shooting, but I mean, hold it against your shoulder and lock it in. Like that's the next habit. And we're going to focus and drill on that habit. And so he slowly had his athletes build these habits. And when the habits are there, the goal comes naturally. The goal comes naturally. You're able to hit the target. If you have health and wellness habits in your life, you will naturally be the perfect body size for you. Maybe that's a size 0, maybe that's a size 6, maybe that's a size 10, but you will be your perfect body size for you. It's not about adjusting the goal. It's not about, I want to lose 10 pounds. It's about what lifestyle do I want to live? And if you want to live a lifestyle that gets you to certain goals, we just rewind and say, what would that lifestyle look like? What would those habits look like? And it all starts from there. So let go of goals, focus on habits. So let me do just a quick review of what this would look like. If you wanted to say, I am going to clean out my closet and I'm going to always have a very clean closet, and I will always put my clothes away every single time. That's a goal, right? And it's too aggressive. Is it slow? No. Is it sustainable for a lifetime? Not in the beginning, maybe later. And does it require force or discipline? Yeah, it fails that one as well. So instead, you would set the habit of every time I walk into my closet, I will put 3 things away. That's actually what habit I have instilled in my closet. And so every time I walk in, I put 3 items of clothing away, or I put 3 shoes away. And my closet is never 100% clean, but it's always about 90% clean. It looks great, and I don't have to think about it. I never have to clean my closet. I have one of those open closets that's just a giant, shelves everywhere from floor to ceiling, and all my clothes are like stacked or whatever, and there's tons of shoes there as well. And whenever I have a friend that comes in my closet without fail, they will say, "Oh my goodness, how do you keep this so neat and clean?" And it's just because of that habit. It's 3 things every time I walk into that closet. Now, if that's too hard, if that's not slow enough, or if it requires force and discipline, you would go slower. You would say, okay, 1 item. I'm just going to go into the closet and do 1 item. Let's do another example. I'm going to cook every single night. And that's how actually the Eat Well program came to be. I realized I couldn't just set up a system. I couldn't just have this beautiful board and the cards and say, okay, I'm going to mount this on my refrigerator, and then every single day, if it says Tuesday or Wednesday, I'm going to cook this recipe. That's a system, but there's no habits built around it. So I actually built a series of cards that walk you through habits. So the habit cards are like, they have some training. I don't know if you can see that, but nothing is off limits. And then it has you do some like questions for yourself. And then you mark up, yes, I did that. Yes, I did that. Yes, I did that. And so you build habits slowly, slowly, slowly. And so it's the equivalent of doing, okay, today I'm just going to put away 1 thing every time I walk into the closet. One of the first habits that we started with Eat Well, or in my own family, trying to get ourselves to cook. If you go from, freezer pizzas and fast food all the way to, my family cooks every single night, real healthy foods. My teenagers all know how to cook. Crazy, right? If you knew my family, you would know how crazy that is. So we went from freezer pizzas to every single night we cook a healthy meal with a dinner and a side, and we do desserts once a week. Crazy, huh? But the secret was, the first habit we had to do is we had to put our food on the counter, like our meal ingredients. So we would put the paprika out and the onions and the salt, and we put it in a pretty basket. And so that way, when I come home from work, all the food is there ready and waiting for me. Like 1 step is already done. Hope that makes sense to you. So that's the first critical ingredient in setting up habits, is it must be slow. And then the second, of course, is it does not require force. If it's too hard to require yourself to put all the dinner ingredients out on the counter, if it's too much of a pain to like hunt down all those ingredients, what you do even smaller than that is you'd say, I'm going to put down 1 ingredient. I'm gonna get 1 ingredient out for dinner, and I'm gonna set that out before I leave for work. And so that's just an idea of what you can do to start instilling these habits. Anyway, I could go on forever. We have 2 more trainings. So we talked today about habits a lot. We didn't talk about what to do when habits fail, because all of us have had the experience of trying to instill a new habit. It doesn't stick. How do we then do it without forcing ourselves? I want to cover that on our next podcast coming up here in just a little bit. So as a wrap up on today's podcast, remember the SNL principle: slow, no force or discipline, and it must be sustainable for a lifetime. So L is the lifetime. You will naturally move further and faster if you start more slowly. So if I start with, just putting out my ingredients for dinner, pretty soon your body and brain just kind of take over and you start wanting to do more. And it's so beautiful when you can move into this space of letting your life pull you and letting your habits program themselves and pull you, instead of like, I must, force, discipline, willpower. The slow cut is the shortcut. You will become, trust the process. So as we wrap things up, reminder that the goal of this podcast is to program your brain to start instilling systems and habits into your daily life. It's not about what you know, it's about what you do, starting one very small step at a time. I want to give you a giveaway from our sponsor that I obviously know very much about. So we want to give you an Eat Well starter kit system. So to win this, you're going to leave a review or comment on whatever platform you found us. So you can find us on all the major podcasting platforms or on social media platform. Wherever you found us, leave a comment or a review and tell us your favorite quote or idea from today's podcast. I will personally pick a favorite every single week, and I will send you a code for a free Eat Well starter kit. It's a $150 value. On our next episode, we're going to continue to explore strategies on how to program the brain, specifically what happens when you tried to set a habit and it didn't take. There's some really easy things that you can do to get those habits to take. And then let's see, do I need to do anything else? I don't think so. I think that is all. So thank you so much for joining us. This is Habits for Humans, and thank you in advance for giving us a positive review. Thanks, everyone.